Hello and welcome to the Daily Ramble here on Claret and Booze. My name's Gary. Got a lot of things to talk to you about today. First of all, the Moyes brand of anti-football. Then we'll talk about how David Moyes seems to be gaslighting the fans, which is only one ear cup short of what Sam Allardyce used to do. And then we'll talk about Last Chance Saloon, aka the Leicester game on Saturday. So, onwards and upwards. The first story. So, now, this particular brand of football that we're seeing at the moment from David Moyes is just not acceptable. It's not working. Yesterday was horrible. But you can... It's just the latest instalment of anti-football from David Moyes. It's defence over attack whenever we play. It looks like, even at home to Crystal Palace, and I can't get my head around this. I'm sorry, I can't, right? There's pragmatic, and there's ridiculous. And this is on the verge of ridiculous. Because we're doing it against every team we play. Even though we got some results against Bournemouth, against Wolves, against Fulham, right? That's 3 of our 4 wins, by the way, this season. Even though we got those results, we played in exactly the same way. We were helped out by VAR on a couple of occasions in those games. Yesterday, we were nearly helped out by VAR again, but it went the other way. I mean, had we got something out of that game yesterday, it would have been a bit of a travesty. Having said that, Crystal Palace, they went at us all game, didn't they? And we invited them to go at us all game by sitting so deep, by playing so many defensively minded players, and playing players out of form as well. Thomas Souček should not be on the pitch. I know he got booed and I don't agree with that, but David Moyes put him in the firing line for him to get booed. Jared Bowen constantly gets a start and plays the whole 90 minutes, never gets substituted. Why is that? Why was Ben Rama, our best player and our most consistent player this season, taken off? It always seems to be him, doesn't it? I've got to look back at the stats and see just how many times Saeed Benrahma has played 90 minutes, because I don't think it's been very many, to be honest. David Moyes is plugging away with this last 15-minute strategy, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, what he seems to do is he seems to, especially when we're playing deep sides who are considered better than us, he will leave it until the last 15 minutes before he really goes for the game. Unfortunately, he did that against Crystal Palace yesterday as well. Right, he left it until the bitter end for us to start getting bodies forward, and those who fell by the wayside in the meantime were Scamacca, who's clearly got his head down and doesn't look like he's in any way, shape or form happy to be playing for David Moyes at the moment. Not surprised, because of the way he tries to utilise him, tries to get him to be a replacement for Antonio. That is not the way he plays. So unless we want another Haller on our hands, we've got to play to Scamacca's strengths. The system cannot be everything, right? We can't. The system you can't buy these players, these flair players, from all different parts of from all over Europe. Great players in their own right. Bring them in and expect them to fit in a rigid defensive system. It is not gonna work, and it's frankly ruining players. It's ruined Haller in the Premier League. It ruined Anderson, Vlasic, Paqueta now, and Scamacca. Not to mention people like Pablo Fornals, who have had the kind of attacking flair side of their game absolutely, just cut. He's not allowed to do it, apart from if he happens to come on in the last 15 minutes of a game and it's the when we're going gung-ho at someone. Now, you might have noticed recently the stadium has just been dead. I mean, the atmosphere over at the London Stadium has been dead all season. David Moyes has said the fans need to be louder. Well, yeah, we'd like to be louder, but you've got to have something on the pitch to be able to get excited about. And I want to share with you, I took a fan survey. I took 2 of them, actually. I took one of them after the Bournemouth game, and I expected this to be really positive, right? The output from this survey, I expected to be really positive, right up there. And if you look at it, 56% said in Moyes we trust. But even after Bournemouth, 44% were either in the tolerate or bored or want a new manager camp. So that is not exactly a vote of confidence, right? And that was quite a big survey run over a couple of days, like 1,800, I think, people responded to it. Now, obviously I've had to do this in a short period of time, so this is just about 300 respondents so far. And I didn't send it out after the game last night. I put it on this morning once people had a chance to calm down a little bit. And I'm not surprised by the results, but the results are horrific. I mean, if you look at it, in Moyes we trust, down to 14%. And then you've got 37% who think he needs to go, who think his time is up. And I think that comes from that conclusion from the fans. It comes from, you could say some of it is a little bit emotional. People will still be feeling emotional from yesterday. But I think a lot of it is also the way that David Moyes seems to be just ignoring what the fans have to say and gaslighting, if you like. Now, I don't think the way David Moyes was after the game yesterday, especially one thing that he said, one thing in particular, someone was questioning him about Benrahma, right? And he come out with, there are a lot of experts out there, aren't there? And that's, to me, that's just using words to do exactly what Sam Allardyce did when he cut his ear. You know, it's no different. It's doing it verbally rather than doing it with actions, right? Fans are entitled to an opinion whether he likes it or not. The manager's job is to buy players, to get them working in the system, to select a formation, to select a tactical approach, to get substitutions right, to react to problems inside the game. You know, the manager has got a lot of things that he's got to get right. It's a very, very responsible job, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do it. We know that. That's why I'm not a football manager, right? But I'm a fan. And so the fan gets to judge what the manager does. And I think most of us are quite patient. I know I am. You're quite patient, and you see a couple of dodgy games, you sort of you ignore it, you let it pass, right? But now we're seeing a pattern emerge of this same dreadful football happening game after game after game. We've been through that little experiment of playing Flynn Downs as a number 10, because clearly he wanted to put another CDM in his team somewhere, right? And that didn't work, did it? That didn't work. You could say we were unlucky in those two games against Liverpool and Man U, but at the same time, we left it late, didn't we? Left it till right to the end, which is what he does. And when you look at the season so far, we've played 14 games, league games. Forget the Conference League, right? The Conference League, we're playing against 3 really poor teams, and if we didn't beat them and win 6 out of 6, I'd be more concerned, right? If you've been to the home games or you've been to some of the away games, you know that we've played those games at a training pace, right? We've beaten Fulham, Bournemouth, Wolves and Villa. Wolves and Villa were on the verge of getting rid of their managers at the time. Fulham and Bournemouth, that was, some dreadful. I think Fulham had an injury crisis and Bournemouth were awful, right? So we've beaten those 4 teams. We've drawn it against Southampton, who have just sacked their manager, Hassan Hootel, and we drew against Spurs. And I think for me, Spurs is probably, that was the performance of the season, right? Because we're always up for it against Spurs, and thank God we were in that one. But anyway, in summary, we've lost 8 games out of 14. We've won 4 against very mediocre opposition, and we've drawn 2. That is not a good set of results for the season, is it? And it puts us just outside the bottom 3, couple of points outside the bottom 3, going into the Leicester game on Saturday. We've won 1 game out of our last 5. So David Moyes can say what he likes about how there's a lot of experts, aren't there? You know, but we've got eyes, we've got judgment, we've watched football for a lot of years. You can see when a pattern's developing, and for me, you can see when a manager is disappearing up his own backside. And I think that is what David Moyes is doing. Just trying the same thing, believing wholeheartedly that this system works because it worked a couple of seasons ago. It didn't work for the second half of last season. It hasn't worked this season at all. And he's got at his disposal probably the best squad we've had in many, many years, right? So I don't blame it on lack of having players not available. We're 14 games in. How long is this transition going to last? And I don't see anything transitioning. What's he transitioning to? He only seems to be transitioning to his own brand of defensive, well, dog shit football, really, isn't it? I mean, it's terrible. You could say he was in transition if, for instance, he was setting up in in an attacking mode, playing all of his best players in their right position, and he was giving them time to blend. He's not doing that. He's playing a rigid brand of defensive football, and he's putting square pegs in round holes like he's always done. And now on top of that, he's gaslighting us about it. Well, I'll tell you what, Dave, don't annoy the fans. I think you just saw in the poll that I shared earlier, he's annoyed quite a few fans already. I'll tell you what, if we lose on Saturday, it is last chance Saloon. Last chance Saloon at home to Leicester. Now, we read this morning that the board have come out and given him the dreaded vote of confidence. No matter what, we're standing by David Moyes, said David Sullivan. Yeah, of course he did. I wonder if, Kretinsky's going to have something to say about this anyway. So it's not just Sullivan. Even though Sullivan is a majority shareholder, so in theory he can do what he likes, I dare say he won't want to piss off Kretinsky too much. And it would be devoid. It would be devoid of any, how can I say, the way you should run a company, right? You should run a company for the benefit of that company, right? You do not support a losing horse if that losing horse is going to take your company down the toilet, right? And that is what David Moyes is in danger of doing. If we get relegated, we are in trouble. We've just spent a fortune on players. We cannot afford to get relegated. But that is where we're going. All the teams around us are pulling the emergency cord and getting in a new manager. Wolves have just done it, brought in an excellent manager. Southampton are on the verge of doing it now. But you look around us, there have been so many managers swapped out because teams do not typically wait for... Just use this thing, right? West Ham, other teams, when the rot sets in, they get a new manager. West Ham, we don't only wait for the rot to set in, we wait for things to start falling off before we get a new manager. That has always been the way it's been under Sullivan and Gold. They've always waited too long. Now, they shouldn't wait too long now, because if they do, pretty much any decent manager who's worth his salt is going to be gone, right? I do not expect us to get anything against Leicester, right? Which is why I'm calling this early. Last chance Saloon, I think Dave is going to be drinking his last drink come, it's actually a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. So come 5 o'clock Saturday, I think he could be in a bit of a sticky situation. But will the board do what they should do? And after 14 games with a long World Cup break ahead, enabling them time to bring in a new manager and enabling that new manager to get to know most of the players, apart from the small handful who are going to the World Cup, to play some friendlies, to get ready for when the season commences. That is the perfect time to do it. And that is why, when we lose to Leicester next Saturday, David Moyes needs to go. Let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm always a bit worried. It takes me a long time to get to this stage with managers, and it's taken me, all of this season, all of last season, to get to the point where I'm pretty sure it's over. I'm pretty sure it is. But I'll be interested to read your comments anyway. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel Claret and Booze. Hit the bell notification icon and give us a like if you wouldn't mind. Until next time, see you soon and come on you irons.